Hey guys, welcome back to the Tar Pit Podcast. I'm your host, Emma.
I'm Evie.
And I'm Adam. And we're at episode 10 of season 35. Em, where does this episode start out?
This episode starts out with a flight to Stockholm, Sweden. And for those who don't know, Stockholm is made up of a bunch of tiny different islands.
And once the teams land at the airport, they have to get in a car and they have to go to a specific island, one of the many islands that makes up Stockholm. And they have to go to a spot on this island where they pick a number based on the order that they arrive. And the order is for a skydiving challenge. And this skydiving challenge is unique because
both team members have to do it.
Right. So instead of one person from the team doing it, they're both doing it.
Like my dad said, you have to go pick a number and that says which order you're jumping out of the plane. A lot of teams ran past where the numbers are because it's not the traditional red, yellow, black colors and it's blue.
It was blue, yeah. And I don't know if I would have looked for it. And it wasn't big either. It was just a little board
tiny
with some
little
numbers
hanging off the road blocker.
And I think I would have went past it too even because I would have looked for red, yellow, and black.
And Greg and John were the first ones there, and they ran right past it, and they ended up being third.
And Joel and Garrett got the chance to move up to first.
Because they saw it right away, whereas two other teams before them had passed it. They get their turn, and at 5 o'clock in the morning, they take their turn to do the skydiving. They're all on the plane, but they have a turn of when they can jump out. And so the first team goes first, second team goes second, and they land, and they have to go to what will be a boathouse for a clue. As they're skydiving, you can see a little interview with a certain team member. It was a funny before and after.
Ashlie,
and she was really freaked out. Yeah.
Jiminy Cricket.
Yeah. She was really freaked out before and as they were about to jump. And then as they're jumping, though,
she started having fun.
Yeah,
she
you
liked
could tell
it.
she was letting loose, and then she landed, and she said she loved it.
And she said that she wanted to do it again.
I want to go
pretty
skydiving.
Cool. That would be cool. So I think everybody had a good time, though. I mean, I think she was the most freaked out by having to do it, but I think everyone did it, and I think everyone enjoyed it. It seemed like everyone really enjoyed it.
There were some people that said they wouldn't do it again, but they were glad they did it.
Yeah, the one and done kind of thing. I did it, I've done it, I'm good.
Yeah.
Back to Ashlie, the before and after, Jiminy Cricket, let's do that again.
Yeah, that was funny. So they all land from the skydiving challenge and they go to the boathouse, and they are taking a small boat, and they go to this spot where they have a roadblock, and it's called Who Wants to Party? And they have to build and erect a maypole.
What is a maypole?
A maypole is kind of that cross-looking thing that they had to build on. And it has two wreaths hanging from it. And you put together a bunch of plants and vines and different things to celebrate summer, really. That's what you're doing. You're celebrating summer because midsummer is a point during the summer in Sweden and other countries where you have the most sunlight during the day. So there really is only half an hour of darkness, if that. And so they are celebrating it in a place that's traditionally quite dark during fall and winter. And so it's the point where there's the longest point sunlight for the day. And so they get to the maypole, and they have to build wreaths for the maypole and do a dance. And Rob and Corey decide to do what?
They decide to use the express pass and skip it because they know that every team has to stop and do the roadblock.
Right. So they know that every team's going to have to do this. So they are taking advantage of that express pass, and they're going to try to get an edge on the other teams at this point. Annalie was the first to complete it, though. She built the wreath, and she was the first one to do it. Joel and Garrett had to do it a second time. And so did, Garrett and Greg had to do it a second time. Greg was doing it for Greg and John, and Garrett was doing it for Joel and Garrett, and they both had to do it a second time after their first check.
Annalie got it pretty fast, though, and so Rob and Corey, they didn't get much of a lead.
So they did. She did get through it quite quickly, and they show her, and they show Rob and Corey
where
move
they
on
are
to the next thing. And they really weren't getting much of a lead like they had hoped because Annalie really was cruising through that wreath challenge.
I think that it's okay that they didn't get that much of a lead, though, because then Rob and Corey and Steve and Annalie were working together for the rest of the leg. So in some ways it benefited.
Yep. Annalie and Steve leave the Maypole Challenge. They then have to go to the Royal Theater. And at this point, Rob and Corey are already on their way, if not just arriving. And so they have to find a violinist inside this big auditorium for the next clue. And Ashlie, unfortunately, was the last one to get the Maypole done, Maypole Challenge. She had tried a couple times and it was just not working for her. And so
It didn't take her a couple tries. She was just really focused on getting the bass down, and she could have done it in way less time than it took her if she realized that she didn't really have to get that thick of a bass and just had to throw in leaves and put on some flowers.
And also, there wasn't like a serious pattern to it. Like some of the other challenges where you have to have 8 of this kind of flower and 12 of this kind or something.
You just had to have the same amount of flowers and leaves on it.
And so it was a little less intricate than some of the other things they've had to do in the past. But it did take her a while to get it done. And so she was the last to leave, the last team, her and Todd, from the Maypole. And the other teams are at this point are making their way to the Royal Theater, and they had to find the violinist. And we see at this point, too, that the Express Pass didn't really put Rob and Corey ahead all that much. The team work, though, between Steve and Annalie and Rob and Corey is really starting to show. So Steve and Annalie arrive to the theater at the point where Rob and Corey are just starting out. And so they're really starting at the same spot, and they're trying to work together and get this figured out. The funniest moment.
They got on a bus.
They're about to.
Well, they sat down on the bus, and then Rob and Corey got on the bus before it was about to leave to pull them off and say, this isn't a subway.
Right. So they left, and then at that point, it just kind of solidified the teamwork that they were having between the two teams.
Yeah, they were working together throughout the whole leg.
Throughout the rest of the leg, you're right. Yeah. They were working closely together. And Todd and Ashlie, though, when they left the Royal Theater, were taking some kind of subway, I think, to the next detour spot, or to get a clue for the next detour spot. And so they were getting a little upset, but trying to talk themselves down about being in last place. And Ashlie...
Todd was like, we are so blessed to be here, and we just have to remember that. And Ashlie was like, that's what losers say.
Yeah, that's what people who are losing say. It was kind of funny, because in some ways it's true. You want to be positive, but at the same time, when you're in that spot, you're like, yeah, that's what people say when they're losing. So I get it. I get where they're both at. That was funny. So they have to go to...
They make their way to the detour, sort or serve. Sort, you have to sort different materials into recycling, because Stockholm, Sweden is really eco-focused. They recycle almost 99% of their materials. And then the other side of the detour, serve, is you just serve food to former Nobel Prize winners. But the dishes are from different time periods, and you have to remember the names and then give it to your partner in the kitchen.
So one is very physical, right? This recycling. They get a household of trash.
Like a fridge, tires.
Ton of stuff, right? Ton of different things. And they have to sort through that and take it to all these different stations at this huge recycling center.
Almost everybody did the sorting. Only Greg and John did serve.
And the serve challenge, as Emma said, was a challenge that kind of highlighted the fact that the Nobel Peace Prize is in Stockholm.
Not just the Peace Prize, all of them.
Well, right. Yeah, the Nobel Prize, sorry. It's in Stockholm. It was created there and is hosted there every year. And they had the menu of past dinners for Nobel nominees and Nobel winners. And they had name tags, and they had people sitting, posing as the real people. So they had Marie Curie,
Albert
Einstein, and different people. But it told the year that they got their Nobel Prize. And what Greg and John had to do was look at the menu for that year and take them the 3 courses for those years. And there's 4 people from 4 different years sitting at each table. So it was a big memorization challenge.
Greg was excited because all the dishes were in French, and he speaks French, and John speaks a little bit of French too. So it was easy for them.
Yeah, I think that helped them a lot. I think if somebody didn't have that, then not only do you have a memorization challenge, but you have a memorization challenge with the added difficulty of a language barrier. And I think that can be hard. But what they did give away, though, is they gave us all tips
they had to remember, like, they only remembered one word, like either the first word or the last word of each dish. And there were 3 courses that you had to bring out.
Right. So what they did, because one was the server and one was the runner. So one was back with the food and one was the server who figured out what the menu was and would go back and tell the runner what to get. And so what they did, though, is they looked for a very unique word in the dish. And then they went, and that's how they would remember what it was, or at least relay to each other what it was. They would look for a word that wasn't in the other dishes that was very unique. And it was made it a little bit easier instead of having to memorize a big 5-word dish in French.
Those desserts looked really good. Like the Charlotte Rochelle one. That one looked really good.
Yeah, they looked really good and very fancy.
Yeah, like from the Charlotte Rochelle, like they only memorized Charlotte. And then like they found that word. And then, yeah, they just kind of kept doing that with every dish.
Yeah, and so I think it helped them make things easier and less stressful than trying to memorize the name of the full dish because it was in French. A lot of them had multiple words.
There's one that was like 6 words long. Like, who's remembering that?
Yeah. So they were the ones that did serve. That did take longer, I think, because of their memorization aspect. It looked like sort. People had a pretty not easy time because I'm sure it was physically demanding, but they kind of raced through it, I think, pretty quickly.
It was easy to see where everything went.
I think so too. Even though the signs were in Swedish, I think they got the hang of it because you could see what was in those bins eventually, and you kind of knew where things should go.
Todd and Ashlie, like they were just having fun. Like when they when they had something, like they would just like smash it in there, like with the toilet, like you could just hear it like shattering when they like just threw it like with all their strength. Like you could hear it like cracking and shattering, and it was kind of satisfying.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like. She was saying that they'd take out their frustration, I think, with being sort of in last place at this point, take out their frustration on breaking all those things when they threw it in. So they had a good time doing that. And I also noticed, I think their good time doing that is a common thread with some of the teams who realize they're getting toward the end of a leg and they are probably in last place. And I think a lot of the teams make a switch where it's we need to win or stay in the race to let's just try to have fun and enjoy the moment because we know that we're not staying long.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we've seen that with a couple of the teams recently where they're just trying to appreciate where they're at.
We saw that with Joel and Garrett, and because they were having fun, they weren't so uptight and weren't putting so much pressure on themselves, and they ended up getting second to last.
Yeah, and I think Morgan and Lena did that too at the end when they knew that they were down and behind and they were trying to enjoy it a little bit too.
Yeah, like when it was like a foot race with Ian and Joe.
And Robin and Chelsea even made a point, just to have fun with it and just try to relax and just try to go with the flow. So it seems to be a common thread with teams when they realize that they're probably either last or close to last and trying to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So they do the detour. Those are the 2 options. And at this point, all of the 4 teams minus Todd and Ashlie are finishing at similar times. Steve and Annalie and Joel and Garrett are leaving the recycling center area. And they see as they're running and they're trying to find the subway, the marina, they had to go to a marina for the pit stop, and they're trying to get directions, and they got some pretty yucky directions actually that took them on a wild goose chase.
They had to go to a subway station.
Yeah, and as they're running though to get to this place, they merge with John and Greg. And so those teams are really
and
ahead.
Rob and Corey.
Yep. Those teams are all kind of ahead of Todd and Ashlie at this point. And so you can see there's a difference of where Todd and Ashlie are.
Robin, Corey, and Stephen and Annalie, they were working together, but then John and Greg like saw them. So then they went up and like all 3 teams started working together.
Yeah, I think they were working together a little bit, but I do see like a little bit of an alliance, I guess I would say, with Steve and Annalie and
Rob and Corey.
Yeah, they kind of have a little bit of an alliance there. And so that's where... So they were running, trying to get to the next spot, which would be the marina, to where there's a clue to go to the pit stop. And the pit stop was at a museum. And the museum, so they had to race by subway from the marina to the museum. And the museum
was known for finding this underground city from where these people were trying to build a parking lot. And as they dug down, they found the ruins of this old city.
Yeah, and it was an ancient city that they unearthed, you're right, and that they built a museum around it. So you go in this museum and you see this really cool city that it was underground, but I'm sure at the time it wasn't. But that's kind of cool to see. But that's where the pit stop is, at this museum of this ancient city. And John and Greg, as we said, joined the pack leaders, the leading teams. And you can see the distinction of Todd and Ashlie being behind quite a bit. It becomes a wild goose chase, though, when they get those directions to the museum from the subway. And Joel and Garrett, though,
end up meeting up with them.
Were able to get ahead of the other teams because the other teams were kind of sent on a wild goose chase a little bit with these directions. And it let them jump ahead a little bit. And so it became a foot race to get to the
pit stop.
The pit stop from the subway to the museum. They were able to get there first. John and Joel and Garrett were able to get there first. It came down to a foot race for the top place, and it came down to a foot race for who was going to be last, because Annalie and Steve were running, and it looked to me, maybe it was the editing, that Todd and Ashlie were gaining ground. And so it came down to who was going to be last. And I think part of that is because Steve looked like he was really struggling at the end with that run, trying to get there.
He was struggling as they were running around to find the subway too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that was a lot of physical work for him.
And Annalie was just kind of come on, let's go. We're so close, I can see it. And he was just he was kind of like you guys said, he was struggling.
Yeah.
He was trying his best.
He was. So we get to the pit stop, though, at the museum. And the teams that got there first were...
Joel and Garrett got their first. They won an Expedia trip to...
The Galapagos.
The Galapagos Islands, right? And the second place team was?
The second place team was John and Greg. Third place was Rob and Corey. Steve and Annalie got fourth, so they were saved. And then fifth was Todd and Ashlie, and they got eliminated.
They did, and they were one of the first people that we got to meet from the first teams. So we had a little special bond with them. But thankfully, they're going to be back and talk to us about their experience. So that will be right after our podcast.
Yay!
Right after this.
Next week, we'll be down to 4 teams. And then we'll be down to final 3. Who at this point do you think will get it?
I don't know, because in some past seasons, they've done a mega leg as the last 2 episodes and make all 4 teams go into the final. And then
true.
one team getting eliminated in the middle.
That's true. So we don't know if it will be the final 4 or the final 3.
I feel like it's hard to decide who would be who I think would be in the final 3, because I know that Rob and Corey and Greg and John definitely will be. I think
it's in between Joel and Garrett and Steve and Annalie.
Yeah, because Steve he was struggling while they were running, and Steve and Annalie, Annalie's really physical, right? She goes out for everything. And then Steve has a hard time sometimes. And then Joel and Garrett, but they just got their first. But Steve and Annalie seemed like a really strong team. So it's kind of in between them for me.
So between them, you mean of who will stay in the final 3?
Yeah.
Okay. And who will be eliminated? Gotcha. All right. So who do you think will win, though, at this point? Who's going to be the first place team in that final leg?
Greg and John or Rob and Corey, I think.
I think so, too.
I say Greg and John because they've been really getting a lot of firsts and seconds lately.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's going to be them. And Rob and Corey got 3 firsts in the start, right?
But all it takes is 1 to win the whole thing.
That's true.
Yeah.
You just need 1 at the end. So who knows? But I do know that when it comes down to racing, if there's ever a foot chase, or any kind of running required in an activity, Greg and John are going to fly through it because they have really been running circles around all the teams with that stuff. So
Rob and Corey have been holding their own, though.
They have been.
They're proving to be a really, really strong team.
Yeah, they are. They are. Agreed. So, okay. So here's our interview with Todd and Ashlie on their last episode. Bye.
Bye. We are here with Todd and Ashlie, the most recent team to leave The Amazing Race.
Oh, I know that I don't like the sound of that.
This is Evie. Overall, tell us about your experience on season 35.
Hi, Evie.
Nice to talk to you again. I would have to say, overall, our experience was an experience of a lifetime. Every single moment, whether the highs and lows, like I said at the end, I would do it all again in a heartbeat. It's always been a dream of mine to come on this show with Todd, and it was just like the fact that it came true. I could not be happier.
Yeah, I felt just very grateful to be on the show, and just, my heart was full. Although you're disappointed in the outcome, not winning, of course, but overall, looking back, I mean, it was amazing.
All the places we saw.
Right.
I mean, the fact that I conquered one of the biggest fears of my entire life, I was able to do on the show. I never thought in a million years that I would ever jump out of an airplane, but like we just saw in the last episode, I faced my fear, and I ended up, I'm so proud of myself, but just all those little things, making rice paper.
Yeah, jumping out of the plane, though, I wish you just leave Jiminy Cricket out of it. What did he ever do to you?
The only thing that came to mind, okay?
This is Emma. What was each of your most stressful and exciting moments of the race?
Hi, Emma. Well, let's see. Most stressful, I would say just the day in, day out stress of racing. Just the things you can't control, like being in a like a cab, right, where he might not necessarily know where he's going, and having a language barrier, and just not knowing if you're going in the right direction, and you just putting your trust and faith in people that you don't even speak the same language. So that was the most stressful for me.
I'll agree. I think the most stressful part is I would probably say the 10 to 15 seconds right before we go. So whether that's like we're all bunched up in the airport and we all have to take off at the same time, or
at the pit start. Yeah,
at the pit start, like right before you open your clue. That was the most stressful part of each.
What about the moment right before you had to jump out of the plane?
That too was probably really crazy, but I think it's just that constant, like, okay, we're about to race, and just that feeling that kind of bubbles up. But then once you hit go, it's just like a whirlwind.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the most exciting part, what would you say yours is?
Oh, the most exciting part is memorable. Oh, hands down, 100% is the skydiving. Oh my gosh, that was the most amazing thing.
Yeah, that looked cool.
And being right over Stockholm, Sweden was a pretty magnificent view too. So
that looked really cool. That did, and we loved the little before and after clip too of Ashlie before that, and then the after. That was funny.
It's amazing how just that, like I said before, that juxtaposition of emotions where I was just so fearful, and then afterwards I'm like, let's do this again. That was amazing. So that was incredible.
Yeah. What were there any moments that didn't make the show that you want us to know about? Anything that fell on the editing floor that you thought should be in the show?
Yeah, I just think some of the things that you didn't get to see was just how much fun Ashlie and I had. Mm-hmm. We were always laughing, always joking around. I was kind of known as like the jokester on the amongst this, like the whole production. Yeah. And so we're always dancing and having fun with the locals, and we just had a blast. So definitely a lot of that was not on the show, but we understand it's only a 90-minute show on this season.
I think they could make an entire series just of Todd dancing
and goofing around. So that one scene in Slovenia when I was joking around about the 2 chains, that was me all the time.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean that's his personality. Mm-hmm. And I will say there were a lot of times where we just had the most fun interactions with the locals. I think in Slovenia when we got lost, we actually pulled over and we found another couple that they were from Croatia, and they were on a family road trip, and we were bantering back and forth with him, and I was explaining the situation. Oh, well, can you believe my husband? Like, he didn't listen to me, and now we're lost. And he's like, I'm gonna have to take the side of your husband. And it was just so comical, and it was just a beautiful moment that we can be.
Yeah, and we got into like a little dance party with the people in the Vietnamese market.
Yeah.
So like little things like that.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Looking back, would you change anything about the last leg?
That's a great question. Yes and no. I would have to go back a few legs before that. And the thing I would change would be to not miss the express pass. So that missing the express pass is I think what did us in.
Yeah.
That last leg, we ran it pretty decently, right? Like even with the wreath, it looked like Ashlie was taking a long time on the show, but in reality, we were just 15 minutes behind the team ahead of us. And the team that was behind us used the express pass. So if that was our express pass, that would have been us, like Rob and Corey. So
yeah, I agree. I don't think in that last race we would have been, if we changed anything about that last leg, we probably still be in a better position, because we really didn't make much mistakes other than pulling that number, But like I said, I felt like we ran a very good last leg. It just was so linear, and it was hard. There wasn't the challenges. I would say that they weren't extremely difficult. It was more of just like get it done and move on. So I felt like there wasn't a lot of road or barriers for other teams to maybe get tripped up on. So
oh my gosh, that is because we were watching it. We're like, wow, that really took her a long time. But to find out it was only 15 minutes, that's pretty trippy how editing can make things look so long.
Yeah, and you know what? If Rob and Corey didn't have that express pass, we'd have been right there, and it would have been like a battle for us, and you probably would have got out there. And it wouldn't have looked as like you were alone, right?
Because right when we got there, I would say that as soon as I got to my wreath, Annalie had just finished. Then Greg was probably 3 minutes behind her, and then Garrett was about And
I asked everyone because I was standing to the side. I asked them, they're like, yeah, we're here like 15 minutes before you, and then I was timing on my watch, and I think we left like 15 minutes after the last team. So we were right on pace, but we needed to make up time, and we just didn't.
There's no way for us to do it.
Yeah, it really came down to a foot race for everyone this last episode. That was pretty crazy.
Yeah, and the one thing that you didn't see either is when we were jumping out of a plane, each team jumped 15 minutes apart. So you drop out of a plane, and then the plane would do a big loop around the sky, and then drop out off the next group and do a trip around again, and then so we were already 15 minutes behind. Fresh out of the airplane. So
what teams do you keep in contact with the most?
Oh my goodness,
all of them, right? Yeah.
We have a little group chat that we talk with probably daily. I will say it's hard to just pick one. We are constant in communication with them constantly.
Yeah, we have an open group chat going on, and I kind of go back and forth a little bit more with Liam and Jeremy. I keep in touch with them. Those are my guys. So.
And I'd say I probably communicate with Andrea and Melina a little more consistently than the other groups. But like I said, we're in constant communication.
And we just saw Lena Lena a couple weeks ago. So she came out and we had ice cream with. She met our kids and all that. So
that's
she's
cool.
super awesome. She's super awesome with our kids, and it was really fun.
Our daughter was way more excited to see Lena than she was that we were even on the show.
Yeah, she was so excited.
It's been amazing, though, talking with all of you before the season aired, and just how well everyone gets along. And everyone really is just pretty cool. And we've been watching this show, and we feel bad when any team leaves because we've liked everyone that we've met so far. It's been pretty interesting.
Yeah, everyone's good people, Everyone's super nice, super just fun and kind. And that's why I think we all got along on the show. But don't get it twisted. We all wanted to beat each other too. So it was kind of a weird dichotomy of emotions.
So what would you say was your favorite place to visit?
Hands down, Slovenia.
You think so?
Slovenia for me, it was as if we had stepped inside a fairy tale, like a fairy tale land, and everything just didn't look real because it was just so beautiful and big. Like it was Honestly,
it,
the most beautiful.
yeah,
place
it
I've
looked
ever
like a Disney princess movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Now that 10 episodes have aired, how has the show changed your life?
Shoot. I think it definitely changed our life in the fact that like we get noticed at like the supermarket and people would say good job and like people want to take pictures with us for the time being. So it's really fun and we're enjoying it, but we know it's not going to last, so we're enjoying it while it lasts. And
I think too, a lot of people have, I would say, have reached out to us and just kind of said that our story did resonate with them, just being a married couple and having kids and, just the grind that it can be and that they were encouraged. And, so I think that's been good to hear that, stories like that aren't often shared.
People have reached out to me through social media privately and just talked about how like their marriage is kind of going through the same thing we did in the past, and they're and so like it's a good opportunity for me to share some positivity and some
and just what worked for us.
Right, just worked for us. So
that's been really exciting.
Speaking of people reaching out to you, how can fans keep up with you?
Well, you could friend us on Instagram and Facebook. What's our handles? My handle is at Todd_Martin33, and then we have
mine's just Miss Ashlie Martin.
And then our team account too.
It's just Todd and Ashlie.
Todd and Ashlie, and then also we have a YouTube recap channel. We
like to share all this what didn't get aired. So we kind of dive in a little deeper on Todd's dancing skills and so that's been fun to do.
Yeah, it gets a little wild. So check us out on YouTube, our YouTube channel.
Okay,
it's pretty fun.
Can you give us a little bit of what was shared in your show so people can follow you over there from here?
For instance, the whole 15 minutes of skydiving, right? And like how we fell behind.
And then also the train where it shows us running down, for the subway.
Oh, and this last one, it looks like we're really close to Steve and Annalie, which I don't think we really were. I think we were about 10, 15 minutes behind. But then again, I mean, we missed the train by 3 seconds and we had to wait 10 minutes. And then when we got into the pit stop, we learned that we were only 15 minutes behind. So, right. I mean, we maybe possibly could have caught up to Steve and Annalie if we made that train. But
we're also going to talk about how the other teams got royally lost. And I was just kind of shocked after watching that show. I'm like, we watched the show and I at one point I was like, I kind of felt like, well, maybe we do have a chance to catch up, even though I knew the ending. But I was kind of shocked how lost that they got. Todd and I, it was just,
Yeah. So it's little stuff like that. Like if you go back to the episode where we're in Slovenia where Andrea and Milena went out, right?
Slovenia?
Was that in Slovenia or where was that?
You mean Lena Morgan?
No.
Germany.
Germany. When we're in Germany and they got out, like they got really lost. But there was a portion where all the teams got lost.
Yeah.
And we were all in the forest, driving around the forest. And Ashlie was driving, and we almost got hit by this giant bus. The bus was going like 80 miles an hour.
Oh my gosh.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So, and after that, that's why you see me driving the rest of the race. Yeah, go ahead. So, yeah, that's the kind of little stuff we talk about.
Nice. And what is the name of the recap called again?
Ashlie?
I think it's Todd and Ashlie all day.
Todd and Ashlie, okay. And it's on YouTube?
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Okay, great. So if everyone's listening, they can check it out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you guys for joining our show. We don't want to take too much of your time. We know that you're in between a lot of interviews this weekend.
Thank you.
But thank you so much and have fun recapping on your own show. And it's been great to meet you guys. We've been so fortunate.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you guys and we always love listening. So keep it up.
Yeah, keep up this podcast. This is awesome. We listen to it. So yeah.
Our kids love it too.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, good.
So thank you for what you guys do.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.